It's English time with Teacher Gly.
Today will be about strategies for an effective interpersonal conversation. So every day we are doing this thing called conversation for sure, like what we are doing now, diba? So in this lesson, your ability to listen, to speak, to discuss, and participate in a meaningful conversation. So you will also learn why an effective communication is important in our lives. It is not enough that you can converse, that you can say whatever you want to say to other people, but the question is how effective the communication between you and the other person. So I want you to answer this question with a yes or a no. In your paper that is available with you, I want you to answer the questions posted in your screen with just a yes or a no. Okay? So grab your pen and paper. The first one. So, do you use appropriate body language to show that you are listening? When you are talking to somebody, are you using your body language to show that you are listening to the one that you are talking with? Do you listen to the speaker without interrupting, without butting in, without saying something while the other person is speaking that is interrupting? Number three, do you repeat what the speaker said or ask questions to make sure you have understood correctly? Number four, do you avoid being distracted by noises, mobile phones, or by what other people are doing? Yes or no? And last, do you avoid being distracted by the mannerisms, speaking style, clothing of the person speaking? Let's say he has a manner or she has a manner of blinking his or her eyes while talking. Are you getting distracted with that mannerism? Okay, so I want you to put how many yeses and how many no's you answered in our chat box. So if you have answered yes in most of the questions, then you can consider yourself as a good communicator. You can consider yourself as a good speaker and listener. So let us discover what do we mean by these five, okay, one by one. So, as a form of communication, conversation is the exchange of thoughts, opinions, and information on things with your family, friends, neighbors, or even to an acquaintance. So, that is what we call conversation. Again, can you please read what we meant by conversation, Pamela?
Conversation, the exchange of thoughts, opinions, and information on things with your family, friends, neighbors, or even to an acquaintance.
Okay, very good. Effective conversation can lead to good, peaceful, and harmonious relationship among other people or individuals around you. Okay? So properly expressing your thoughts, your opinions, whether it is verbal or non-verbal, requires the art of speaking. When you are having a conversation, it requires you not just to listen, but as well as to speak. So let us have this active strategy. So what is this active strategy? So there are times that conversation can be challenging because it's either you do not understand what the other person is saying, or the other person cannot understand what you are saying. So that is when a conversation becomes challenging. And if that happens, you need ways on how to keep the conversation going. Let us have this active strategy to avoid those challenges in conversation and keep the conversation going and solve possible communication issues. Okay, so let us have this active strategy, ACTIVE. The first one, okay, for letter A, asking open ended questions. So to get the communication going on, to not have a dead conversation or boring conversation, you must ask an open-ended question. And what are these open-ended questions? So they are the questions that are not just answerable by a yes or a no, because asking such questions can end your conversation. So better yet, ask the questions that does not require just a simple yes and just a simple no. Let me give you an example of this question. So instead of asking, do you have a travel experience? So instead of asking that, you opt to ask, what is your best travel experience? Diba? So that will keep your conversation going, because that is an open-ended question that requires an explanation or more details from the person you are talking with. Okay, so that is for active strategy. Number one, ask open-ended questions. Next, for letter C, clarifying for comprehension. Now, this one is very important. If you do not understand what the person or what the other person is saying, so make sure you ask for clarification, or make sure that you have understood what the other person is saying or what you have heard. You comprehend or you understood. Now, for how can we clarify things that were not clear to us? Okay, so you can ask, when you said that you went to that place, what do you mean? Yeah. If you do not understood something that he or she said, you may ask, when you said that, what do you mean? So can you please repeat what you said? Okay, so those are the questions for clarifying some information with the one you are talking with. Okay, that is for letter C. T, for letter T, you can make the conversation extraordinary. So, what do we mean by extraordinary? You try conversation starters. Okay. Wait, do you know that blah blah blah? Yeah. So you will be opening a conversation, seeking the other person's experiences. So that is trying conversation starters. Next, we have letter I, interrupting politely. Use the proper timing. Do not butt in the middle of the sentence of the person you are talking with, but rather wait for the person to have his or her intonation go down. Do not butt in the middle of the sentence. You do not just interrupt right away without giving any signals that you are about to say something. So you have to interrupt politely. Okay, or you can say, excuse me, yan. Okay. Next, voicing opinions. It is not just enough that you are listening to the other person. Of course, you have to also express yourself. Let's say, for example, in my experience, if this is the experience of the other person, then you might as well want to share your experience. Or did you agree with what the other person have said, or do you disagree? Okay, so it is very important that you voice out your opinion. Okay, so while you are with the conversation, express yourself and voice out your opinion if necessary. Okay, so that you are not just listening. Be a conversation starter as well. And expressing with keepers. When we say expressing with keepers, you have to keep the conversation going by observing this first ACTIV. Okay, so that is expressing with keepers. So that is how you communicate actively with active strategy. Okay, again, how can we keep the communication going? Okay, let's have Daniela.
A. Asking open-ended question, more than a simple yes or no. C. Clarifying for comprehension. Make sure to understand what you heard. D. Trying conversation starters. Extraordinary. I. Interrupting politely. Use proper timing. V. Voicing opinions. Expressing yourself. E. Expressing with keepers. Keep the conversation going.
Okay, so that is how you keep the conversation going, by using the active strategy. But the conversation is not just about speaking with words. We also use non-verbal cues to communicate with other people. So what are these non-verbal cues? Can you please read what is non-verbal cues? Let's have Vince.
Nonverbal cues, a form of communication where people make
Facial.
facial expression, eye contact, and hand and body gestures.
Gestures. Okay, very good. So that is non-verbal cues. When you are speaking with another person or with other people, you do not just use words. Let us have more of this non-verbal. So non-verbal cues includes facial expression. When we say facial expression, everything that includes in your face that can project expression like your brows, your mouth, your eyes. So they are very effective in communicating emotions and information. Let's have smiling. Another facial expression is frowning or pouting or using the brows. And we also have this kind of facial expression. So another nonverbal cue is eye contact. So eye contact is very important when you are talking with somebody else because that shows that you are attentive and that you are interested in what the other person is saying. And then next is the gesture. So these are the body movements such as hand and head that expresses emotions and messages. So, what are the examples of this one? Yung pagtango, 'di ba? Pagtango means that you are agreeing with the other person or pag-iling, yan. And thumbs up, that is also an example of body gesture. Yan. So, they are the non-verbal cues. Aside from the words that you are speaking, when we are communicating with other people, we also use these non-verbal cues, and they are the facial expressions, the eye contact, and the gestures. Follow these guidelines on giving and taking down messages. Again, what if you are conversing with the other person via screen or via call or via video call? So, what will you do? In situations like this, you have to follow these guidelines in giving and taking down messages. The first one, if you are the one who is speaking, meaning you are the one who is giving a message, first, be brief. And then remember to say thank you to the person you are talking to. If you are the one giving the message. Then, if you are the one who is taking down a message, meaning you are the listener, first, of course, you have to listen carefully and then write down the details accurately. And then, of course, hindi lang yung nagsasalita ang magte-thank you, but as well as you, as the receiver of the message, will also say thank you and then convey the message accurately to the person concerned orally by writing a note. Remember that in communication, it is important to form connections, to build relationships. In your classroom, let me just show you what you will be doing as task. Open the document. Okay, click open with and then Google Docs because this one is Word, obviously. And then download, save a copy, and then that will be the time that you make edit. So you have to, of course, write your name and your section here, and then read the conversation of Mara and Ronel. So those that we have discussed today will be the content of this activity. Find the text evidence in the dialogue to show what specific cues they've used. For example, Mara used eye contact. How? Mara stared at Ronel. Okay, so that is what we meant by uh, text evidence. Okay, how did Ronel shows eye contact? So, hanapin niyo siya dyan. How did Mara shows facial expression? So it could be more than one. The answer could be more than one. Next, what are the facial expressions Ronel used while he is talking with Mara? So find that in the conversation. And gestures. Again, the answer could be more than one. It could be more than one facial expression. It could be more than one gesture. Next, for learning task number 2, the answers could also be found in your conversation above. Okay, so this will be the strategy. Okay. Identify the conversation strategies used in the dialogue by writing the statements or questions in the second column. Okay. For example, what is used as asking open-ended questions? Okay. For the strategy asking open-ended questions, what is that dialogue? So the dialogue that was used is, where are you from? Okay. Next, clarifying for comprehension. What will be the dialogue that will fit in for clarifying for comprehension? Write the dialogue here. And who said that dialogue? Now, what are the dialogues or the lines that can be considered as trying conversation starters? And so on and so forth. Did you get it now? Can you please give me a heart? Yes.
Sa learning task 2 po, kukuha lang po sa inanong conversation po ni Ronel at Mara.
Yes. Only your answer should be based here in this conversation alone. Okay, so do not make your own conversation, do not make your own dialogue. Okay? Any questions? Again, I will be posting the recording of this lesson in your Google Classroom, of course, edited